We're live. What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, Devin Midro over here. Just getting another video in, and yeah, it's actually day 6, video 6. I have been trying to upload day 4, day 5 videos, and have been running into some complications. But don't worry, I'm sure that I'll figure it out, like I figured out the other 3. But yeah, it's day 6, and I kind of forgot about this. I didn't think about it. When I was going through my strategy and all that. But just to briefly touch on, you might notice my uniform right here. My last name. It's probably backwards in the video, maybe. And yeah, I'm a part of the Hawaii National Guard, and if you're in the Guard, most people probably have heard the, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year deal. And so this is my weekend right here, and I realized, like, oh shoot, I got another 45-minute drive, so so I'm gonna, which is gonna be today and tomorrow. So I looked at that and said, actually I might hit my goal faster than I anticipated. So that's enlightening. So yeah, that's a fun fact. But definitely, definitely looking forward to creating this content, right? Getting it in. So let's get it. So to stay on track, I realized I kind of have an easy button with these videos, and I alluded to it, I want to say, in yesterday's video. And what I'm really describing is, the easy button, meaning I write an email a day, right? I write an email a day, and because I write an email a day, it's to my advantage if I use it. And what I mean by that is, my email that I write, there's a lot of different types of emails you can write. I mean, there's a lot. Let's just go down a few. Just it depends on what the message you're trying to get across and the audience that's receiving it. You could be talking about health. You could be talking about, fitness. You could be talking about finances. You could be talking about retirement. You could be talking about traveling. You could be, the list just goes on, right? Of all the different, they call it, I believe, is niches, different topics, different, genres that you could cover, right? There's an abundant amount of information that you can cover. And, I like to, so a lot of people, when they, I've noticed most emails are pretty cookie cutter, right? Because copywriting's a skill, it's something like anything else that, you got to work on and develop. And a lot of people either don't take the time or they just don't care for it. And they'll put out a message, right? They'll put something out there. And if you're, I'm not to say it's good, bad, right, or wrong, but if you're just putting out something that blatantly says what your product or service is, and describes the product or service and says, hey, here's a link to learn more, that works. It's definitely a successful model. I'm not going to take anything away from that, but I would venture to say that maybe the reason that I like to write philosophical emails, I looked at the definition and I feel like that ties in pretty well to what I do, is it's just something that creates value for somebody, right? Like it's something that somebody could read, and they can, they could get a lot out of it, right? I hope. I like to believe that anyway. That's what I believe. They get some value out of it, even if they don't buy the thing that I might be putting out there for them to buy, or click on a link that I might be putting out in the email. They still walk away with some kind of nugget, right? Something they could put into their life right now. So it's free value, right? It's something I could probably package and sell. And I probably will eventually package and sell it in some way, shape, or form. But, giving away information that could potentially be valuable, that they could take and implement into their life, and actionably, I don't even know if that's the word, actionably? We'll go with that. Actionably make it happen, right? Like, take action on it. That's what I aim to do. And so with those emails, there's always some kind of lesson embedded into it, right? There's always some kind of, diamond in the dirt in the world we live in, right? There's something, valuable that they could take away. That's what I aim to do. So I wanted to actually, side note, you know, I don't want to lose focus, but I'm pretty sure, even though the video hasn't posted yet, that this is the solution right here. So far, this is leaps and bounds better than what I was using prior to this for the audio quality. So this is to a point where if you just shut the video off and you just listen to the audio sounds pretty clean. You know, pretty clean. Where it's I wouldn't say it's podcast worthy, but it's definitely tolerable. You know, it's something that people can listen to and be like, all right, I can deal with this. This works. It's cool. You know, so, but yeah, the message today that I was running through on the email is basically, it was a good friend of mine, and still a good friend of mine, you know, that I actually ran into, almost literally ran into, you know, in Costco. You know, we were like in the same aisle, and I was looking at something. In fact, I was looking at the butter. And if you're in Costco, it's another little plug or a little promotion, I would say. Go for the grass-fed butter. You know, I'm a health nut. You know what I mean? That's another side thing that I got going on. Is I'm not a doctor and I don't have certificates, and I realize that when it comes to the health and wellness space, you gotta watch what you say, because you know, you could there's some liabilities, right? Like if you don't have a medical background, like, you know, because it's science, right? There's a lot of science behind a lot of this, you know, medical recommendations that are made, right? And you got to have some pretty big disclaimers when you put those things out there. But I'm going to tell you straight right now that, you know, the simple things that you hear are real. Like if you're going to eat something, go for organic, right? Or go for cage-free or grass-fed. You know, like it does make a big difference. You might not notice it in the short term, but in the long term, it's it's a big deal. It is a big deal. And so I was looking at the grass-fed butter, and I was looking at the regular Kirkland butter, and then I think Kirkland actually has their own grass-fed. Maybe they don't. I might be wrong on that. But there's grass-fed butter at Costco, and you know, it's a little more expensive, but it's worth it. Trust me, it is so worth it. When you cook with grass-fed butter, if you're somebody who, you know, really enjoys the taste of food and takes the time to really tune in, you will notice the difference. Anyway, there's my shameless plug on, you know, your health tip for the day. Always get grass-fed butter, grass-fed meat. Go for it. Do it. Pays extra money if you can afford it. If you can't, obviously don't get it, right? But if you can, seriously, it is absolutely worth it. So yeah, we're at met him, you know, at Costco, right? And I actually met his fiance. I didn't, you know, we hadn't seen each other for over a year, you know, and I met his fiance. She's awesome, just like him. And you know, he's like, you know what, let's do dinner, and we ended up doing dinner. You know, how many times you meet friends and you're like, hey, let's hang out later, and life gets the best of you, right? And it gets busy. You know, in this situation, fortunately, he definitely was the orchestrator of the dinner. He even called it in, made reservations, did all that cool stuff, even paid for the dinner. Yeah, just awesome friend. And yeah, so he turned me on to something. Well, we had a lot of good conversation, but he said, and I quote, "In the lack thereof, one must provide." And you know, there's a lot of wisdom in that, right? There's a lot of wisdom, and I unpacked that in the email, and I realized now I kind of want to pause and just kind of capture a moment in that this could be monumental. I write an email every morning, 1 email a day. That's just my goal. I may down the road might do 2 meals a day, emails a day. 2 meals a day. Matter of fact, I'm doing, you know, it's interesting. I don't know, it's a funny connection. I'm trying to stay on track here, so I don't want to go too far off the beaten path, but I eat 1 meal a day. I eat once a day, and I eat at dinner time. I can't tell you, again, this is another tip on top of other tips, but I'll get back to it. I know where I'm at. I eat 1 meal a day. Now, everybody's body's different. I'm not a doctor. I'm not making any medical claims here that this is the way to do it, because everybody's different. But I started this, and I didn't just jump into it. Oh yeah, like from out the womb, and I'm like, Mom, I only want to eat once a day. Sorry, this was this really I adapted to this way of living probably about a year now, and it was a natural progression. So initially, I dropped to 2 meals a day, which was lunch and dinner. And prior to that, I actually started what is called known as a ketogenic diet. Right? If people don't know, because that's a pretty big thing that's been getting popular from what I can tell. There's a lot of different stuff on keto, right? And then there's a lot of controversial too, like controversy against it, right? There's other people who are like vegan and vegetarian, and there's different diets, right? There's a ton of different diets. So there's so many different paths to take. I might veer a little further off than I'd like to, but I want to go down this because it's really important to me. It's a passion of mine, and I'll try to get to the really good stuff though. And the reason I chose the ketogenic diet, and the reason I chose to do 1 meal a day, which over time it progressed towards that step. I didn't just snap my fingers and do it. All right, but the reason I chose that is because the ketogenic diet, compared to all other diets, to my knowledge, puts you in a ketogenic state. What is a ketogenic state? I'm going to try to keep it simple. I'm not going to get into a lot of technical terms here. A ketogenic state is when you're burning fat as your energy source. All right, that's a very simple way to put it. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that is what it is on a very basic level. So if you want to lose weight, seriously, I would recommend doing a ketogenic diet, because what you do is you cut carbs, which you really don't need carbs. People might not want to hear that, but you don't need your bread, your potatoes, your pasta. Now I'm all fired up on it. Once I get on this topic, it's hard to get me off of it, but you don't need carbs. You can get all the nutrients you need, the vitamins, the minerals, you name it, right? You can get all that stuff from fruits, vegetables, protein, right? And it doesn't have to be protein that is from beef or chicken necessarily. There's plant-based protein, right? You can go that route, okay? But I will always, until it's proven otherwise, because initially I was on the fence of have a balanced diet, right? And now I'm like, no, you know what I mean? I'm not a fan of carbs, which really is, when you eat carbs, it turns into glucose, which is a form of sugar. And, sugar is really going to be detrimental to your health. Like, sugar is it's a no-no. I mean, I'm serious. Like, people, the only way I should really, truly think you should be getting sugar is naturally, through the foods that you eat, right? Processed sugar is, oh, man. I'm just going to, I better stop right there and get just back to the point. Ketogenic, 1 meal a day. And now what I've actually bumped up to currently right now is I'm actually a pescatarian diet, or pesco keto diet. And basically what that is, the simplest way to put it is seafood and plant-based protein, so nuts, tofu, legumes, which is a little different from nuts. I believe it's more like beans, right? I don't eat a lot of beans actually, because that's high in carbs too. That's a whole other topic, but yeah, I'm definitely doing a lot of seafood and a lot of vegetables, right? And then some days I don't have seafood, right? I won't eat, and seafood meaning crab, lobster, shrimp, scallops, mussels, opihi, fish of all kinds. There's a lot of different things in the sea to eat, right? And yeah, taco, which is basically squid. It's great. I'm really enjoying I'm one to eat for performance, not for necessarily for enjoyment. And when I say not necessarily for enjoyment, I'd say I put performance first before the pleasure of eating, for the enjoyment of actually the taste of the food, right? That's really what I'm always very much more functional oriented then I guess the way to describe it is, the way I operate is, like, say for example, a vehicle, I'll care a lot more about the features of the vehicle than how it looks. If the vehicle doesn't look the greatest, but it functions impressively well, like everything works exceptionally well, and a lot better than maybe the car that looks better, right? It has the better, aesthetic. Ooh, I forget the word now, but basically functional over, how it looks, for lack of better words. And so the same thing applies to my eating habits, right? I still enjoy the food I eat. I definitely make it a point to, add some spices to it and all that good stuff. But definitely more function focused. So I'm looking at long-term health. That's what I'm focused on, is longevity and living long and living well. Like, I plan to be 70, 80 years old and still living life like no problem. I'm still in good shape. I'm still active. I'm still getting out. I'm still doing a lot of things. I can be with my sons and daughters I don't have any daughters right now, but I guess my nieces, my sons and my sons' sons and daughters, like grandkids, and still like really be active in their lifestyle, right? Like in my grandkids' life, I could be in there and be part of it, right? And be the cool grandpa, right? That's like, oh, grandpa still got it, man. He's still doing things. He's still making moves, That's a very long-term goal, but you got to reverse engineer that. I spoke about this in previous videos, but you got to reverse engineer. I picked the number 85. You can pick a number, whatever number far out, 85 is pretty, it's up there, right? It's a pretty high number. If you can reach 85, that's a pretty high age to reach. That is above the average lifespan. And the way I look at it is reverse engineering that and going, well, how do I get there? And when I get there, how do I want to feel? What things do I need to do now in order to make sure that I feel good when I get there? And here's another thing that people say, well, I'm going to die one day anyway, so why not just enjoy life now? True, I'm not going to say that statement doesn't have truth to it, but there's a catch. Why not enjoy life right now and still eat well so you could feel good every day? The thing is, people they'll eat and enjoy the food in that moment, but in that moment they will, afterwards, let's just say shortly afterwards, you feel bad. You feel terrible. Like when you eat junk food, what is junk food? Let's just make it very clear. And I have no shame in saying this. And if this offends you, then you get what you're supposed to. Junk food is fast food, right? We know the names. We know the brands. I'm not going to drop the brands because, I don't even have to say it. We know what fast food is, right? We know what cookies and candy and ice cream are, right? We know the brands that host them, and it is what it is. If you're eating those things, that's your life, right? But I tell you right now, I feel way better eating the way I do day in, day out. It is a huge difference for your brain functionality, to your internals, with your organs and your blood flow. Wink, wink, fellas. All that stuff. I got no problems, and I'm blessed because even if you eat good, there's people who eat great. They're actively exercising and all that stuff. Things still happen in life. This isn't like hey, you eat clean and you eat healthy and you're guaranteed to feel great, but there's a very high probability that you'll feel better on a daily basis. And you start eating clean, you make that transition, your body's going to go through withdrawals. You're going to feel it in the first few days, but in the next few weeks, you're going to feel a lot better. And it's just getting to that point of feeling better that people struggle with, and then staying on track. It's not easy. Everybody's got different life experiences, right? So I'm not saying there's an easy path to this, but it's worth it. Now, while that rant is over, right, let's get back to the topic. And the topic was, and I repeat, in the lack thereof, one must provide. And really, it's an abundant mindset to have, because in this world there are, and there always have been, more followers than leaders. And if you're a follower, don't get offended, right? I'm not aiming to offend people, even though no matter what, you're always going to piss people off and you're always going to inspire people. And in fact, if you ain't pissing people off, or getting people passionate about what you're covering and what you're talking about, or the vision or direction that you're heading, you're probably doing it wrong. Like if these messages are hitting people and they're like, okay, they're like neutral, they're like, yeah, that was all right, you're not making a splash. You're not making a big enough splash in the pond, right? In fact, you're not making a big enough splash in the ocean. It's talking about a global platform like YouTube right here. That's a big ocean, right? There's billions of people that they're on YouTube. So so that's really the message was within those words. It's hard to break that out, on camera like this, right? But I'm gonna do my best. And ultimately, what I covered was basically, I'll get to the good part of it, is in the lack thereof, meaning when there's an abundance of problems, one must provide. One must provide or create solutions, right? And the lack thereof, there's a lot of people, there's a massive amount of people with problems that are looking to be led by leaders that are willing to go out and create solutions. And I like to use examples to kind of anchor in something like this, because a lot of times I'll hear something like this and I go, ooh, that sounds really good. And then I go, I don't know how I'm gonna, implement that. Or you hear it and you kind of just, oh, okay. And then you just don't do anything with it. It's like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know, what am I supposed to do with that? And, ultimately, the comparison that I make is look at business. If you look at businesses in the world, right? Let's just break that out. Think about businesses. What do businesses provide, right? Businesses provide products and services. In a nutshell, right? They provide products and services at a very general, simple, at its simplest form. That's probably about as blatantly, obvious as you can make it, right? Businesses provide products, meaning, let's just do some simple stuff. Toilet paper, right? Let's just go with toilet paper, right? I think that's a product, and what's the problem that we have? Well, when you use a bathroom, you gotta wipe, right? You better wipe. I mean, you know what I mean? That's on you if you don't want to wipe, right? But let's just kind of go a little deeper. Well, there was a toilet paper TP shortage, right? Toilet paper shortage, because when you ain't got toilet paper, there's other ways you can figure it out. I mean, you can go water, you can use water and all that good stuff, right? There's alternatives, but obviously toilet paper is the go-to, right? It's very simple, it's quick, and it gets the job done. That was a product that when there was a lack thereof, right? Lack thereof, there was a problem. When someone provided toilet paper to you, they provided a solution. And what were you willing to pay for that? Especially when there was a lack thereof, right? How much is toilet paper worth when you need some and you ain't got any? So that's something to consider for a product. The service, and like there's tons of other products, right? There's cleaning products, there's, food products. There is just a whole bunch of stuff, right, that you can go down the list with. Next up is going to be services. So services could mean a bunch of like tax services, right? I'm not even going on the list of services. You got lawyers, who provide a service. You have, let's see, a lot of these software as a service platforms, right? They'll provide services, right? Could be marketing services. So there's just a bunch of services, right? But yeah, it's like there's these services out there, like tax services, right? I think it's a pretty good example. And what I want to really, allude to here is that that's something that if you don't, say the IRS is coming after you, right? And because even if you thought you did your taxes right, and you're like, I swear everything was correct, right? But you're not a tax professional, right? Taxes are complicated. And the most complicated part is they're constantly changing. So you think you know what you're talking about, and they just change the tax laws, and now what you think you know is not correct anymore. It's the old rules. That's scary, right? So you think you did it right, then the IRS is knocking at your door saying, hey, you owe us this much money, and you're like, okay, and you got to unpack that and figure out what it is that they're talking about. And then on top of that, you don't know the information. You go out and start researching it, and you can't figure it out. What's the next solution you can do? Oh, you can call up a tax professional, somebody who works in the space, who keeps up with all the laws, all the rules that are changing and all that good stuff, and pay them so much money for them to take care of this problem, being the IRS, to create a solution to create a resolution, right, to the problem. And that's basically what a business does, right? It provides products and services to your problems. You got a problem, we got a solution, but you got to pay for it, right? In this world, I believe there really is no such thing as something for nothing. I think a great way to look at it is, it's the Newton's third law is, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So if you want, even if you want something for free, right? You're still asking somebody, you're still taking the time out of your day to ask them. They're still providing their time to help you out. And really, no matter what, some people could just get stuff for free and think nothing of it, right? But what goes around comes around. Newton's third law, for every action there's an equal opposite reaction. Those things right there, they make sense. Whether you realize it or not, if you're a taker, it's going to come around when you're going to have to give one way or another, whether you like it or not, And the best thing to do is to really just give willingly, but it's going to come around, and you're going to have to step up. Whether you believe it or not, whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. And that's really the lesson for today, is that, in the lack thereof, one must provide. And the big thing is, I guess, to really try to break that out and get to the nuts and bolts, and the real important part of this is, if you want to live a life of abundance, you got to embrace the abundance of the followers and the people that are looking to be led. If you're one of the followers right now, it's okay. I was a follower for a long time too. How do you become a leader? You just make the decision and you take the actions in order to achieve that. So I'm putting it out there today. I'm a leader. Why? It's one thing to say it, but it's a whole other thing to do it. And I'm doing the things in order to be a leader, to be a great leader. Am I a great leader right now? Absolutely not. Not even close. This is a 6th video, probably of hundreds that I plan to make. And until that time, it ain't gonna happen, right? But right now, this is where all great leaders start, in the beginning. No leaders are great in the beginning. They have to get there, right? So I'm encouraging you today, and not everybody will do it, because if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. It's hard to be a leader. It's a lot harder to be a leader than it is to be a follower. Not taking away your ability to be a student. To be a good student, that is a very great skill. But to be a leader, that's a whole nother ballgame right there. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. Be a leader, step up, make that decision today, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Aloha.